It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
Buongiorno tutti. Hello, everybody. This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. We have a lot of fun and exciting things planned today. A little later in the show, we're going to talk to Barry Karr from CFI. We're going to talk about a conference that's happening in just a few days. So if you don't have plans this coming weekend, I mean, not the day the show comes out, but a few days after that, the next weekend, get your butt to Las Vegas. You're going to miss it if you don't go. So go check out csiconference.org. I'm also going to talk to my good friend Mandisa with Black Nonbelievers. She's gone rogue. She's gone independent. And she is now a full-time free thought atheism activist. And you can listen to all the things that she's doing. And you can go donate a few dollars to her as well. And we're also going to talk about 401ks. Kind of how they work, should you have one, when do you put money in, all of that and much, much more. Today's Investing Skeptically segment is about 401ks. You can find more information at Investopedia. It's a reference source that I really like, and you just go to Investopedia, and I was just refreshing myself in article they have called The Basics of a 401k. In 2018, the amount that you, as the employee, can put in is $18,500. That is not affected by any amount that the employer, the company, puts in. So your maximum amount is $18,500. I was researching to see if the numbers are available for 2019 yet. I couldn't find them. They're not officially released by the IRS. But according to multiple websites, it is likely to be $19,000 for 2019. Very convenient, $19,000 in 2019. If you are the age 50 or older, you can do what's called a catch-up contribution. For 2018, that number is $6,000, and the best guess is that it's going to be $6,000 in 2019. If those numbers change at some point, I'll give an update. So you could put this year $18,500 plus 6, and next year $19,000 plus 6. Now, your employer can also add money. Often it's some wonky thing where they put in 50% of what you put in up to the first 6%, which means if you put in 6% or higher, they're going to give you 3% of your gross wages. It's a nice perk. Some companies get crazy, which is awesome if you work for one of these companies where they can put in 10% or 12% of your wages. So if you make $100,000 and they put in 12% or $12,000, that does not affect the $18,500 that you can put in. That does not affect the additional $6,000 that you can put in if you are 50 years of age or older during a specific calendar year. So even if you turn 50 in very late December of 2018, you can put the entire $6,000 in for all of 18. Something you may want to check with your employer. Employer plans may have additional limitations and or restrictions. So I'm giving you the government rules, so you may have to check with your employer. Some employers will allow you, and I've had this in the past, they will allow you to put up to 100% of your pay into your 401k. Virtually every employer I've ever worked for and every employer I've ever heard about knows when to stop taking the money out of your paycheck, and they won't overdo the 401k. So if you happen to have a really nice income, again, let's say $100,000, and you don't need the money every week or every month, starting in January, you could put 100% of your pay, if the plan allows, and you could max out the $19,000 plus the extra $6,000 in a few months, and then your employer would stop adding the money. This could be beneficial if the stock market or your investments in general go up that calendar year. No way to know in advance, but I do know that over the last 100 years, approximately 80 to 82% of the years have been up. So there's good odds that the market goes up in any given random year. So theoretically, the sooner you put the money in, the more money you make that year. And of course, it compounds in the long run. So if you can swing it via your cash flow, slam the money in there if your plan allows it. So that's something to think about. Another thing that could be a problem with that, though, some employers, when they give that wonky match of 50% up to the first 6% or 3%, some employers will only match during a pay period in which you are contributing money. So if you put it all in January, they look at that and they go, okay, you're over the 6%, so we'll give you 50% up to the first 6%, and they give you a few $100 match. If you've maxed out and then in February there's no money from you, they might look at that and say, oh, you've not put any money in February, and they don't give you a match. Something to pay attention to. If the match is only 3%, and in the theoretical average year you can make 10% in the market, you still might be money ahead to slam the money in even if you lose the 3% match from your employer. If you have an employer that gives 10% and they only give matches in the months that you give it, you want to drag that out and do it evenly over the entire year so you get all of the 10% match. I think the employer limit for 2018, the amount that they can give on top of what you contribute, is $36,500. And if that sounds like a ridiculously large amount of money, it is, because almost no employer is going to go anywhere near that. So just the fine point is you can put in $18,500, probably $19,000 next year. If you are 50 or older, you can add an additional $6,000. So if you have a nice income and you don't qualify for IRAs or Roth IRAs, you can put a lot of money into a 401k. If you have your own business, now I'm not 100% sure where this breaks down on if you can just get 1099 income, people are paying you, or if you actually have to have a business. Please check with your tax professional. You can create what's called a solo 401k. So if you happen to have, let's say, a consulting job, you're the only employee for your little consulting company, whatever it is you're consulting on, and you happen to make a generous amount of money, you can create a solo 401k, and it's not that hard. I can help you with it if this is a situation for you. You can email me, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. If you're under my $500,000 threshold, and you can't hire me, but I can give you some pointers and help you in the right direction. If you set up a solo 401k and you're the only employee of your company, you can put in your match as the employee and your match as the employer. And of course, assuming you follow all the complicated rules, again, use your tax professional in this, you might be able to save up to $61,000 for calendar year 2018. And you can even do that now. It's October. You could do that between now and the end of December. So if you have money somewhere, you could put it in there. It can be deductible or non-deductible. And this also works with regular 401ks from your employer. A newer thing in the last few years, decade at the most, is Roth 401k. Of course, that leads to the question, which is better, traditional or Roth? It depends. Tax rates are really low. So, maybe you want to pay the tax now and not pay tax in the future, which would suggest that you get a Roth. You might be able to do 50-50, some of both. Everyone is different. There's also potential problems if you make a lot of money. If you are a highly compensated employee, I think that's the phrase here. Hang on one second here. Yes, highly compensated employee, which means you make over 120 or 125. I don't remember the exact number. You might get some of your 401k contribution kicked back to you later in the year or even after the year is over, and you have to adjust your tax payments to compensate for that. That the test that the IRS has is complicated, but it's called the top-heavy test. And they wanted to make sure when the 401k was originally passed into law that not only the owners or the highly paid employees of a company got to enjoy the benefit. They want everyone to have some benefit from a 401k plan. So if you are a 5% or more owner related to, by blood or marriage, a 5% or more owner, if you make over $120,000, you might be limited to the amount of money you can put into a 401k. I'm pretty sure this does not affect the solo 401k because you're the only employee. That's kind of one of those nice little loopholes. But a regular 401k, if you have a company with 5 employees and you make $200,000 and all of your employees make $30,000, you may face some serious limitations on how much you can put into your company's 401k. Again, check with your tax professional. But for most people, the thing is $18,500 for 18, $19,000 for next year, and an extra $6,000 if you're over 50 years of age. Often 401ks have a lot of choices. Many years ago, when I was younger, say 20 years ago, 401ks often had 4 or 5 choices, and that was it. And a lot of people would say, well, there's 5 funds. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just going to put 20% in each one of the funds. That's a really bad strategy. I mean, it might work, but 1 or 2 of the funds might be short-term bond funds, and you're 25 years old, and you're making 2% for decades when you could be making 10% for decades. Huge, huge loss of potential wealth. So you need to look at those options and see what they are. For a lot of people, sometimes the 401ks will have too many choices, 20 or 30, 40 choices. Often now, it's very, very common for 401ks to have a date-specific fund or a target date fund or a date range fund or something like that, where it'll usually say at the end, investments, blah, 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 2025 or 2030, 2035. It doesn't matter why, but the convention is usually every 5 years there's one available. You can do that and make it really easy for your investing. It will adjust, and people that listen to the show might at this point be screaming, Phil, but you say don't use target date funds. That is not what I say. I think there's often a better way to invest than a target date fund. But within your 401k, if you have shitty options and a really good target date fund available, pick the target date fund. It might be the best option you have available to you. And the nice thing is it will adjust to how much risk you want to take, in decreasing the risk as you get closer and closer to retirement. When you get to retirement, I really don't like target date funds because you can't pick and choose whether you're selling stocks or bonds. You can't pick and choose. Maybe international went up this year and that's where you want to scoop the cream off the top. You can't do that because it's all in one fund. So you're dependent on that one fund. So as you're adding money, especially if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, target date fund, fine. Pick target date fund 2035, 2040. If it's got too much bonds, pick the 2045 or the 2050 and just slam the money in there. It's going to be pretty good. If, however, your fund has, your 401k has a S&P 500 or even better, a total stock market index or a total world index, that might be a better way to go if the expense ratio is nice and low. If they have managed funds with 1% or 2% expense ratios, if the target date fund has a really low expense ratio, you still might be better off there. A lot of things to think about, a lot of options, but that's some things about a 401k. And I've recently talked about, I think, a few months ago, but I'm going to refresh it here since I'm doing this whole 401k segment. When you leave your employer, I do highly recommend that you take the money out of the 401k and you roll it over or you move it into a traditional IRA or just a IRA. unless it's a Roth 401k, then that segment has to move to a Roth IRA. A couple of reasons you want to do that. Sometimes I've run into people who are in their 50s or 60s and they have half a dozen. I think the record was 13 old 401ks at old employers. If you have changed jobs many times, every 3 to 5 years, especially if you're in an industry where there's competition for your skills, like computers, technology, programming. I've had people do that. But if you have a dozen old 401ks, you have to track each and every one of them down and move them. Or when you get to retirement, you're going to have to maintain that information forever. As you get a little older, that might be a little harder to do. So that's one reason not to leave the 401ks lingering behind at all of your former employers, or even just one former employer. Another thing to think about is that the employer can change the 401k provider, and they can change the funds that are available for you to invest in. Back in the day when I worked for the man, I experienced this multiple times where they would say, hey, we've decided to change to this new 401k provider. Sometimes the new 401k is better than what you had. Yay, HR team, you did a great job. Sometimes the new 401k provider sucks hard. You don't want your money there. If you're working there, you may not have a choice. But if you've left that job or you've retired, you have a choice. Move it into an IRA. So don't wait for them to do something stupid. Preemptively move it out. And inside of an IRA or a Roth IRA, you would have many more choices. And of course, you can set up the accounts at TD Ameritrade like I use for myself and my clients. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, any of the big names, you'll be perfectly fine. Set up your IRA. Get a nice mix of index funds. When you move the money from the 401k to the IRA, traditionally what will happen is you will get a form, or you go to an online website from your former employer, and you have to fill out a questionnaire answering some information, and then they will send a check to you. In the case of my clients, let's say your name is John Smith. They might send a check, and they'll make the check payable to TD Ameritrade, FBO, for the benefit of John Smith. So when you, John Smith, get this check, you look it over and go, isn't that lovely? You want to make sure it's the right amount, and then you forward it. I recommend overnight or 2-day registered, because you just don't want the check to disappear, to, in this case, TD Ameritrade. If you set up an account at Fidelity, of course, it'll say Fidelity, FBO, John Smith, and then it'll go in there. It usually is a check that comes with a full sheet of paper, and it has your account number on there because that was part of the questionnaire, and or part or all of your social security number, which is another reason to send it registered so it's not in the regular mail. And it'll show up as cash. So everything that you owned before would be sold, turned into cash. They create a check. The check goes to the new qualified custodian where you've opened up your IRA or Roth IRA. So that's information about 401ks. Oh, I almost forgot. People often ask me, should I max up my 401k first, or should I put money into an IRA or Roth IRA first? Well, it gets complicated, and there's a lot of possible variables, so there is no one right answer for everybody in every situation. But here is my default thought process on this. If you have a 401k or some similar program at your place of employment, if your employer gives you any kind of match, you must do whatever it takes to qualify for 100% of what I call free money. If they give 50% up to the first 6%, you must put in at least 6%. Find a way. If your budget doesn't allow for it, change your budget. It's free freaking money. So if you make $100,000 and they're going to give you $3,000, why are you not collecting it? If your budget's a little tight, cut something. Don't eat out. Buy groceries. Go to Aldi. Don't buy coffees. Find a way. You must collect the free money. It's insane to not collect the free money. So that's the first priority. Once you've collected the free money, or if your employer provides you no match, The second step is to seriously consider an IRA or a Roth IRA. What a lot of people don't know is that if you are married and your spouse does not work, you can open what's called a spousal IRA. It's just an IRS language. The custodian won't know the difference. You'll just open up an IRA for your spouse. So in our case of John Smith, let's say he's married to Mary Smith. He can open up a Roth IRA in his name, and he can open up a Roth IRA in her name, and they as a couple can move money from their checking account to those IRA or Roth IRA accounts. And the reason I like doing that is because often you have more choices, better choices. And if your employer does do something stupid, they can't move your IRA money. They can only control your 401k money. So get the free match first, and then figure out how much you can add in a given year to IRAs or Roth IRAs if you qualify. That's a whole nother show. So if you qualify, if you don't qualify and or you've maxed them, $5,500 a year or more, if you're over 50 again, then you can go back to the 401k. So let's say you make $100,000. You can put in the 6% to get the match. That's $6,000. Your employer gives you $3,000. And then you can save $5,500 each, a total of $11,000 into your IRAs or Roth IRAs. So now you're looking at $6,000 plus $3,000. It's $9,000 plus $11,000, $20,000. Hey, you made the 20%. At least that's my goal, how much you should save and invest for your retirement, 20% a year. If you can save even more, go back to the 401k and increase your contribution amount for that calendar year. So just something to think about, how much you should put in, how much you should save, where you should save it. There's no one right answer, but that's some thoughts and information about 401ks.
And you walk up to the pearly gates and you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
I will basically, what's known as theodicy, I think. I'll say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain? That's what I'd say.
And you think you're going to get in on
No,
that?
but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get in on his terms. They're wrong. Now, if I died and it was Pluto, Hades, and if it was the 12 Greek gods, then I would have more truck with it, because the Greeks they didn't pretend not to be human in their appetites and in their capriciousness and in their unreasonableness. They didn't present themselves as being all-seeing, all-wise, all-kind, all-beneficent. Because the God who created this universe, if it was created by God, is quite clearly a maniac. Utter maniac. Totally selfish. We have to spend our life on our knees thanking him? What kind of God would do that? Yes, the world is very splendid, but it also has in it insects whose whole life cycle is to burrow into the eyes of children and make them blind. They eat outwards from the eyes. Why? Why did you do that to us? You could easily have made a creation in which that didn't exist. It is simply not acceptable.
Pace e lunga vita. Lunga vita e prosperità.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Of course, you are still listening to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. Another special guest. Of course, almost all of my guests are special. Not necessarily everyone, but almost all of them. But today is more special than most. Mandisa Lateefah Thomas, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me once again on your show, Phil.
My pleasure. How are things in the Southeast, I guess is what we're going to call it, right? Georgia?
Yes. In Atlanta, Georgia, things are revving up for the next election. We are looking forward to, the governor's race here in Atlanta, potentially the first black woman governor ever in the state of Georgia. And things have just been busy here with with me with Black Nonbelievers, continuing to grow and expand the organization, increasing our visibility and our work. And I recently, back in March, resigned from my full-time job that I was working in addition to developing Black Nonbelievers in order to take it on full-time as well as secular activism full-time. So my time has just been freed up quite a bit, and it's been great. I've been doing a lot since March, and
well, fantastic.
Things have gone very, very well.
I figured we'd get to that later, and that's awesome to do it early. We can come back to it again at the end. But since we're in this neighborhood, tell us about the Patreon account.
Yes, so I have started a Patreon to help to help build income for my activism. And what I do with that is I usually post a weekly entry about community building, as well as other either atheist-related topics or just topics that other people can relate to. In addition to the activism, I am a full-time wife, a full-time mother. And so there is a lot in my life that could be considered pretty interesting, and that I do share. I do share things that I couldn't normally share within the public spectrum. I also post about upcoming events, upcoming projects and activities, as well as offer general advice and some do's and don'ts for fellow activists and participants within the secular community.
Excellent. And this also helps you run Black Nonbelievers, or at least be able to have income and time?
Yes, absolutely. And this is in addition to my running Black Nonbelievers, which at this time is still a volunteer effort for myself and our fellow organizers. We do appreciate all of the support that we receive, but yes, it does not yet pay the bills.
Sure. And how do people find the page for you?
So, yes, the Patreon, you have to have the direct link. It's patreon.com/Mandisa Lateefah. Because it contains adult content, you won't be able to search Patreon for it. So you'll have to have the exact link as it is spelled.
Excellent. And so it's patreon.com/ and Mandisa, correct me here if I get this wrong, is MANDISA. And I'm assuming there's no gap or anything, and then we just go into Lateefah, LATEEFAH.
That is correct. Thank you. You got it on the first try. Yes, that is absolutely correct.
I can read letters. I'm so awesome. So you started Black Nonbelievers. When was that? That's a few years ago.
Actually, in 2011, started locally as Black Nonbelievers of Atlanta, and we have expanded now. We're currently in 13 cities, including Atlanta. We just expanded this year into Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. So in 7 years, we have we have grown exponentially, and our presence is very much seen within the secular community as well as just the community at large, which is very, very good. We're very, very dedicated to engaging people face-to-face and building that community of people in person at various events. And we do outreach, we do tabling, we also support other initiatives, and we form alliances and coalitions with other organizations, particularly within the secular community. But yes, we have been going strong now for 7 years, and we hope to continue growing and going in the years to come.
Well, I remember at one point, Black Nonbelievers and I had tables next to each other at some conference. And it just so happened that in this center, this hotel, this convention center, whatever it was, there was also another group of, I guess, Black Americans, but it was a very religious event. And they would walk by your table, and some of them were not happy. And matter of fact, some of them were just kind of like besides themselves with confusion that there could be a Black non-believer. Do you remember that, what I'm talking about?
Yes, I think that was the Atheist Alliance of America conference.
I believe
it was either, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that's exactly where it was. It was there was the Women of Color in Ministries conference, and there was also another conference that was predominantly Black attended. And yes, I think the organizers for the Atheist Conference were trying to establish initially some sort of common ground, but though the attendees were looking at the tables and were rebuking and praying over them. And so, yes, they saw our table, and many were just like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" That was the year that the woman said to me that she couldn't believe that I had as a Black woman, I had the nerve to identify as an atheist. It was just like such an affront. I had committed some sort of treason, if you will. And this is what we explain when people ask us, why is there a need for Black nonbelievers? It's because within the Black community, the presence of atheists offline and actually seeing us in person is still something that people, it's something that's still considered very rare. And for many Black atheists, it is a very isolating experience, and it can still be very challenging to find others. Now, we know that isn't the case. We know that there are more of us out here, but we needed to put together and form a concentrated effort and build an organization that was dedicated to that, as well as showing the secular community as being more diverse and more inclusive than previously thought. But yes, I remember that event very well, and that is one of we serve a few purposes here. It intersects in many ways, but that is one, to show that yes, there are Black folks who are atheists, and there is an organization that is dedicated to bringing more of us out, amplifying our voices as well as our actions.
Well, it's one of those things that, I live in my bubble, and I'm very, privileged. I guess I'll go with the lingo of the day. I'm very privileged to be a white male. I'm not particularly privileged because I'm an atheist, which has had very little downside to it. And matter of fact, it's a large part of my business's success because I decided to market to that group. But to see those reactions in person that you faced, I've been told that it's a culturally different thing, and I accept that. But to see it, to really see it, and the responses that you were getting were truly staggering and disturbing. I appreciate that you're dealing with a whole nother level of inconvenience, hassle, lack of, they don't believe that you don't believe kind of stuff. But clearly the group is important, and I'm delighted that, as you said, Black folks can have a place where they can go talk to somebody and not be judged and not be thought as a traitor to their race. Would that be fair to say that some people think that?
Well, yes, the woman that we encountered certainly stated that, and religion and God is so infused. It's infused in American society in general, but particularly within the Black community, it's still very, very prevalent. And there are, politicians and other people who may not even touch us. They wouldn't even want to be, they wouldn't want to be seen anywhere near us, or they just don't think we exist. But also, too, yes, the sentiment amongst still a lot of Black folks is that you are betraying your race, you're betraying your identity. How dare you give up God, and how dare you give up being Black? And one of the things that we do as an organization, and whenever I do speak, is that I remind people that the presence of atheists and humanists and freethinkers within the Black community has always been present, always been there, but has largely been obscured. And even though the information is even though that tends to be the case, we're here to remind people of that. And also within the secular community, which tends to still either overlook or still doesn't is unaware of this information, because it is very, very important for all of us to understand that we've been part of these communities historically, and now more so currently.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm delighted that you're there. And of course, I wanted to mention, and I think it's so cool, and I can't do it again this year, but your conference is a cruise. Do I understand this correctly?
Yes, we have a convention at sea. This is the second year we've done it. Previously, we had put on the Blackout Secular Rally in New York in 2013. We had our 5th anniversary celebration in 2016, and that was amazing. We called that more than a conference. But yes, in 2017, as well as this year, we're having a convention at sea. Yes, which will consist of speakers, authors, and activists within the secular community. And it's great because it gives people the opportunity to participate in an activity which they may not have before, which is cruising, which can be really a fun travel experience. And also you get the opportunity to hear from people within the secular community, as well as other atheists, especially coming from from the communities of color that you may not have heard of before, and there's a good opportunity to be educated. We also are featuring Larry Decker from the Secular Coalition for America and Monette Richards from Secular Woman, and these are organizations and leaders who are our allies, the organizations that we work with very closely, and we're showing that it's a great opportunity to have fun and meet new people, as well as be educated and informed.
And of course, and I guess I feel the need to make sure it's clear, this cruise is open to anybody, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, because
not only is the cruise open to everyone, but all of our activities are open to the public and are open to everyone, regardless of who you are. As well as support is open, and we appreciate your support of us previously, Phil. But yes, the opportunity to, if you would like to go on a cruise, the convention at sea, it is open to all.
Very, very good. And when is that cruise, by the way? And when is kind of like a deadline to sign up? Because I know it's getting close.
Yes, so the cruise this year takes place from November 24th through the 29th. That's right after Thanksgiving. The link to sign up and register is still available on our website at blacknonbelievers.org. It's best to try to sign up before mid-November, about November 11th, because that is when I'm sure we'll be definitely finalizing our numbers there. But yes, if you'd like to get some more information, and if you're interested, please feel free to go to our website and look this up as soon as possible.
What is the approximate cost on that?
So prices start at $750 per person, and that's for double occupancy. That includes 5 nights and 6 days on the Carnival Sensation. It includes most of the food, mostly the buffets and the restaurants on the cruise. It includes the port fees. And so, yes, it is very, very inclusive of most activities on the ship.
I like it. Are you guys going to have any party on this cruise, of course?
Oh, absolutely. There's going to be, they have the sail away party. There's going to be a cocktail party. There's going to be karaoke. There's going to be all sorts of fun activities on the ship. Last year, there was like sort of an adult theme variety show, which was nice. And then also, too, it is very family friendly. So if you're interested in bringing your children, they have like the kids camp there. And so, there's a lot of wonderful activities for some of everyone.
Where does it start from? What's the port?
So, yes, we sail out of Miami.
Okay. I
and
figured.
we'll be going to the Dominican Republic, Amber Cove, Dominican Republic, as well as Grand Turk Island and Turks and Caicos. So, and then there's 2 days at sea, which will consist of the convention for about 3 hours each. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Very much looking forward to it. Last year the weather was beautiful. It was in the mid 80s, and so that's nice, especially if you're living up north somewhere around this time of year. It's nice to get away.
Yeah, it's funny because we have 85, 86 degrees today in Chicago with incredibly high humidity, but somewhere later today we're going to get this big storm through. And tomorrow night, our low is 35 degrees.
Oh my gosh! Yes, yeah. I'm originally from New York, and I don't miss those temperatures at all.
It's the swings that freak people out. It's a big deal to go from 85 to 35.
Yes, and you got to be careful up there because that has the potential to make you sick. So you really, really have to plan carefully and dress accordingly.
Absolutely. What else is going on with Black Nonbelievers?
Well, yes, so we're always looking for dedicated organizers to start chapters in new cities. Speaking of Chicago, we'll be planning the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference along with Sakivu Hutchinson and Black Skeptics Los Angeles, which is slated for October of 2019. So hopefully I can come back on the show to talk more about that.
I would be delighted.
Feature women activists of color within the movement and the work that we've been doing. I'm proud to say that myself and 4 other Black women were featured on the July-August issue, a cover of the Humanist magazine. It was a great experience. I also, too, I was featured in the July-August issue of Playboy along with other activists that in an article that covered the American Atheist magazine, the American Atheist Convention this year, which was also another great honor. And so we've been getting some really good publicity within the movement, and that's also been very, very great for people finding us. I was also recently on the Atheist Experience with Matt Dillahunty a couple of weeks ago. And having these, being able to do these interviews and these features and appearances has allowed more people to find us and get the support they need, as well as people to offer the support that we need, which has been amazing.
Well, of course, my regular listeners know I'm a believer in the philosophy of lifting all boats. I want all these different groups. I want all the variety of different groups. They can be as focused as they want, as general as they want, and you find the group that works for you, whatever that means. And then from time to time, these groups work together to put on bigger events or fight bigger political battles, because apparently we're not post-racial yet. Do you think that's correct?
Not at all. If we learned anything from Obama's presidency, we learned that we're definitely not post-racial at all. Look, we've learned anything from Nike supporting Colin Kaepernick, we learned that we are not post-racial. We are also not post much of anything right now. And I think that we still have a long way to go when it comes to really working together and really starting to build those bridges and getting people involved in what's important to them. And one thing I've always tried to encourage people to do is find it within them to be themselves. If they can come to terms with their atheism or what their point of view is and are able to find others to connect with, then that's a starting point. Being comfortable with yourself always helps when it comes to fighting for for fighting for other causes. And yes, that's a good starting point to connect with groups and other people who can relate, so that hopefully we can expand and start to work together on the things that are important for everyone.
Sure. Where are you speaking next? You got some upcoming conferences?
Yes, I have some upcoming speaking engagements. I will be speaking at Vanderbilt University in Nashville on October 12th. I will be speaking in Minneapolis with the Campus Atheists and Secular Humanists at the University of Minnesota on October 18th. I will also be presenting at the annual symposium with the Institute for Humanist Studies November 2nd through the 4th. And after that, the other major convention is ours, the Convention at Sea. But in the meantime and in between time, if there's anyone who would like for me to speak at their events outside of the normal events that Black Nonbelievers does, please contact me. I respond very quickly. So my calendar is always filling up, and there's always room for more.
Excellent. Well, how do they contact you? Is there an email that you prefer?
Absolutely. Well, you can contact me at mandisa@blacknonbelievers.org. That is the main. You can go to the website and send an inquiry there, too. I'm also available on Facebook at Mandisa Lateefah Thomas. So pretty much anywhere you can find Black Nonbelievers, on Twitter as well, is where you can reach me. So, yes, feel free to use any of those engines, and I will respond. Fantastic.
Anything else that you'd want to cover before we wrap up? Because I know you've got a busy day ahead of you.
Yes, just if you are interested in participating in supporting Black Nonbelievers, you may go to our website at blacknonbelievers.org. You may also find us again on Twitter at BNonbelievers. The B and the N are capitalized. Feel free to stay updated on our events, as well as information that we will provide. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Black Nonbelievers. And I just would like to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for all of the support since I've transitioned to full-time activism, as well as support for the organization, because it really, really means a lot. We are doing some wonderful work and engaging people, as well as growing and cultivating new activists and new organizers and new voices. And so we appreciate all of the support.
Well, Mandisa, thank you so much for being on the Phil Ferguson Show. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you for having me again.
I want to thank you for listening to the Phil Ferguson Show. It is a unique combination of 1/3 finance and 2/3 atheism. The show is number one in that category. I want to promote the philosophy of science-based investing. Sadly, most advisors are paid commissions by a big company to sell you investments that underperform. Sometimes they make more money with your money than you do. I think the financial services industry is a lot like religion. They create fear. They provide a solution to that fear. They take your money, and they often get more benefit from it than you do. Remember, people work for who they are paid by. You want a fiduciary advisor that is paid only by you. If you have questions about investments, want to roll over an old 401k, or need to make a plan to build your very own everlasting nest egg, you may contact me, Phil, at PolarisFinancialPlanning.com. Together, we can protect children from religion, promote a secular worldview, fight the grip religion has on our society, and improve your financial future.
Well, it's been a really interesting debate, and I've loved some of the questions from the floor. I suppose I'm slightly disappointed that Anne Widdecombe in particular should say, oh, I knew they'd bring up condoms and child rape and homosexuality. It's a bit like a burglar in court, so you would bring up that burglary and that manslaughter. You never mention the fact I give my father a birthday present. You know, it's, yes, are you getting the message? There is a reason we hammer home these issues, because they matter. They matter to people's hearts and souls. I make no apology to the lady who said this is supposed to be intelligence squared. Why are you being so emotional? We're talking about religion and souls here. I make no apology for being emotional about that subject. I make no apology for apparently not understanding the theology of Thomas Aquinas and Augustine of Hippo. or the Council of Trent, or various other extraordinary conventions that ruled on limbo. Don't tell me there's some magisterial and mystical reason behind limbo that I'm too stupid to understand. That's not good enough. It really isn't. As a rather more contemporary theologian, Bultmann said, the problem with mysticism is it begins in mist and ends in schism. And it's terribly disappointing to hear.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
All right, everybody. Today we have a second special guest, Barry Karr with the Center for Inquiry. How are you, sir?
I'm doing really good.
Excellent, excellent. You've been with the Center for Inquiry for a couple of years now, haven't you?
A couple of years. We're actually a couple of decades. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I know you've been around for a while, which is awesome. And really briefly, give me a little summary of what is the Center for Inquiry in case some of my listeners don't know.
Well, the Center for Inquiry it's an organization where we have kind of like two wings to it. One is we have the skeptic side of things, where the skeptical inquirer. We look at pseudoscience, the paranormal, fringe science. The other side of the aisle is kind of the humanist, secular humanist, where we promote, morality. You can be good without a God. You don't need God to be a good person. We're interested in issues like separation of church and state, and then we're also interested in like combating alternative medical claims. So we're kind of we're founded. CSI, Skeptical Inquirer part, was founded back in 1976 by Paul Kurtz, and then in 1980 he founded the Council for Secular Humanism. And then we decided we had these two wings, but there's things that we wanted to do together. And the joint projects first started out as we put them under this thing we called the Center for Inquiry. And the Center for Inquiry actually grew to be kind of like the parent organization now. And most things that go through here are run through the Center for Inquiry. So it's been pretty exciting. It's been good growth for us over the years.
Yeah, definitely been growing and around a long time and expanding. I understand you have a relationship with the Richard Dawkins Foundation?
Well, actually, the Richard Dawkins Foundation is now part of the Center for Inquiry. We, a couple years ago, we merged the RDF into the Center for Inquiry. Some of their board members became board members on the Center for Inquiry. Robin Blumner, who was head of the Richard Dawkins Foundation, came in as a new CEO of the combined organization. She replaced Ron Lindsay, who had been here for several years, but he wanted to retire. So it kind of worked out really good for us that RDF is now a program of the Center for Inquiry.
I love it. And, of course, I've met Robin and had her on the show previously, so that's fantastic. This one, I'm not familiar with this TIES, Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. Is that something new, or have I been in a cave, missed it?
That's been well. That was a project that the Dawkins Foundation started, and actually, that's one of the. We're actually going to run a session on this at SciCon. Bertha Vasquez, who is a teacher, a high school teacher in Florida, she runs this program where they have a network of teachers across the country, and they provide workshops in various schools, again, throughout the country. I think they're up to 40 states now, where they've done workshops on how to teach evolution in the classroom. America, we had this problem, I guess, with teaching evolution, and so Bertha goes into the schools and teaches teachers how to teach evolution. So they provide resources and materials, and it's really a program we're really proud of here.
Oh, I like that very much, and I'm kind of delighted to learn about it now myself, and of course my listeners will love it. Of course, it's kind of a sad statement that it's necessary, but here it is.
Yes.
It is necessary. And I was just recently in Italy, and I asked some students there at a university what percentage of their population accepted creationism or thought the Earth was 10,000 years old, and they just laughed. They said that's America. That doesn't happen here. So Yay, America.
Well, no, we're not the only country, but we seem to be one of the places where it's a big problem. I don't know.
Absolutely, and there's more things there. Other things that the CFI does, and CSI Con is one of them. And you mentioned that already. And let's talk about that. What is CSI Con?
It's our annual conference, the CSI conference. We've been doing these for a number of years. We kind of have been labeling them SciCon recently, but we kind of we have a conference where we want to talk about our issues. We deal with, and this conference is, I was looking through the program and just kind of like, making sure I had an idea of like everything that we had, and we're looking at topics like, climate change, fake news, belief, why people believe. We look at health claims, and it's interesting because when this organization was founded, when CSI was founded, I mean, you'd go to one of our conferences and you'd see talks on people talking about Loch Ness Monster, Bermuda Triangle, astrology, or psychics, or UFOs, and those are kind of like our kind of like the old bread and butter issues. But we've branched out. We're talking about issues like, again, fake news, climate change. So we've kind of like shifted our focus a little bit. It still all revolves around the idea, like, why do people believe in what they believe in, even in face of like having no evidence to support it. And we look at the influence. We try to look at the influences of that, like education, religion, how people are brought up. We look at like things like some of the talks on the conference that deal with like celebrity culture, like how do celebrity endorsements affect people's belief or what they will do? How do there's a talk about a person went in to study like people at a Bigfoot conference, and the question was like, well, why do people believe in Bigfoot? Is it because is it kind of like their social groups that they hang out with, or the things they acquire in media, whatever, or is it just because they don't know any better? Is it it's not a matter of intelligence. There's very smart people believe in some of these things. So why is it? So we look at it again. Is it society issues? Is it educational issues? Again, we still do kind of like, we do have a couple talks on kind of like the bread and butter ufology. We do have a talk on it's a really interesting talk. It's called the Grief Vampires. It's kind of like how psychics take advantage of people. And you think in our day and age, and we've been fighting this, people still believe in psychic powers, and it just, I don't know, it's very strange to me how you can look at like newspaper articles basically every week to say, this person was defrauded by a psychic, or a psychic takes $300,000 from a person, or a poor widower, and yet people still go there. So why? Why do people still go there? And part of it's the media, I think.
Yeah,
the media plays this stuff up.
It's a lack of critical thinking, because I see people ripped off with investments. That's my specialty, and they buy things that on the surface look comically bad. I mean, it's just, if you know a little bit about investing and how markets work, you would have to think that this was a really stupid idea, but they don't. They don't have that information. Like you said, they can be really intelligent people, but they're ignorant in a specific area. And
so in that instance, it's kind of like people just succumb to like something like a quick answer, a get rich scheme.
It can be, and sometimes people think that things that are too good to be true aren't too good to be true. And, I don't know, when people feel like they're behind on retirement, they get crazy. But speaker list, I'm just looking at this. My good friend Susan Gerbic, who was a Guerrilla Skeptics, they work on changing Wikipedia, Yvette Detremont, Cy Babe, and of course we have international stars, Stephen Fry, Richard Dawkins, Steven Pinker, James Randi, Adam Conover, who does Adam Ruins Everything, and a good friend I just saw a few weeks ago in Italy, Massimo Polidoro. And
you know Massimo. That's great.
I know Massimo, and you don't know this, but I'm conversational in Italian. So my wife and I went to their skeptics conference in Padova, Italy, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that.
It was pretty amazing, and I found out that my Italian skills were not quite sufficient to listen to topics that were very specific and technical. And I got some of it. Some speakers I did pretty well, but others I was just lost. Bandachek is there. George Robb is there. I mean, Joe Nickel. I'm looking down this list. I'm just picking a fraction of the names that are going to be talking. How many people are going to be at this thing?
When it's all said and done, there'll be over 600 people there, which is nice. We've been kind of growing it. I mean, this is our third year in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, we had 450, and last year we had about 550. So this year we'll get somewhere around, hopefully, 650. So it's growing every year. So we're kind of excited by that. We want to, we've looked at the past attendees, and we've got about 60% of the people this year are new from previous years. So, hopefully that means we're reaching new people. I mean, it's new people. We've done some advertising, but I think we have put together a good program, and I think it should appeal to people outside of our usual. It's not just people that read Skeptical Inquirer magazine that are coming to these conferences. We're trying to, we don't want to preach to the choir. We want to reach new people, and I think, putting together the program that we put together, and maybe of course I'm biased, but I think we've got really interesting topics. And you mentioned some of the speakers that we have. I mean, Stephen Fry is, he's pretty big. Famous. I mean, he's an actor. He's really quite a coup for us to get Stephen Fry to come to this conference. And again, having had James Randi, oh my God, what a treat! It's Randy universally known. I was just a quick story if I got a minute.
You have all the time you want to talk, so go for it.
Randy was I was calling up to book Randy transportation yesterday for the from the airport to the hotel, and I gave the name of the to the person at the the sedan, the limo drivers, the company, and he said, "Is this James the Amazing Randy? I'm picking up James Randi." And I was like, "Yeah, how do you know him? This is great." And he said, "Well, I know all about him. He's got his challenge where he challenges psychics and others for $1 million test, and nobody's ever claimed his prize." And I'm like, "Wow, this is great. This is great." So we want to reach more of those people.
Absolutely.
I think and nowadays, boy, isn't it important that we reach as many people as we can?
Oh, it is very important. And the thing is, I'm remiss. I mean, I had on one of your staff attorneys a few months ago when you guys decided to sue CVS, which
Nick Little.
Yeah, which I'm very excited about, and hopefully good things come out of that. For the listeners, this is right away. I mean, this is happening a few days after you hear this podcast, and unless you're hearing it 8 weeks from now and you missed it, you fucking missed it. It's October 18th through the 21st of 2018, just a few days after this podcast goes out. Are there still spots available?
Yeah, I mean, we have people can register at the door. Some of the some events, like maybe a couple of workshops that we have, might be sold out. Actually, I know one of them right now is sold out, but the general registration, that's wide open. You can come in and you can see Richard Dawkins, and you'll hear Stephen Fry, and you hear James Randi, and Steven Pinker and Adam Conover. All those slots are, we can definitely add more people to it.
And just for the listeners, this is in Westgate Hotel, Las Vegas, and it says here on the website, Westgate is full and Harrah's is full. Well, at least the block that you guys got, there might be other rooms, but it's last minute. But anyone that wants to fly there, or anyone that lives on the West Coast, a lot of California, you can just drive to Las Vegas and see this amazing conference. And I understand there's a costume party and we're supposed to have pajamas. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been doing a Halloween party. We've been doing these conferences around Halloween, and we thought we'd have, these conferences aren't all academic, and we want to have a little bit of fun. So the last few years we've been holding costume parties. Like one year we had a theme of zombie cowboys, and last year we had a 70s disco party. This year we thought we'd go with a pajama party. So come as your we send out notice, tasteful pajamas. I pictured myself as kind of like, nice pajamas and a smoking jacket type of
Yeah.
thing. Maybe I'll have something like that. But
I got the email.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
I got the email that clarified the idea for the pajamas, which were something like out of the 50s or the early 60s. Nice pajamas. It's a family event, so let's keep it clean, people. We're just going to have some nice flannels.
Right, we have we'll be dancing. We've hired a DJ, and we have dancing and food, and we have a costume. We have the contest for best costume. So people have a great time at it. There's videos up on the web from previous years' parties. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, both my wife and I are going, and we're going to make a kind of a vacation out of this, and we're going to be in Vegas. We're going to see some shows. Anything else you want to tell us about CFI, CSI Con, and anything else that's going on that we haven't covered?
Well, just to if I can I'll just mention that next year we've already got space booked for next year, and this will be kind of different for us next year. We're going to be at the Flamingo next year, but it's a joint CFI wide conference. So, this year it's mostly featuring the skeptical topics, the pseudoscience, the science communication. Next year it's going to be a joint conference with the humanist and the free thought side of the aisle. So that should hopefully will have something to appeal to everyone of your listeners.
Excellent. And you said that's in the Flamingo, so that's right on the corner with MGM and New York and everything.
Yeah, right in the heart of the Strip. It's really exciting. I'm really excited about the whole series that we're doing here, the whole SciCon and CFI conferences. It's a lot of fun to put this together.
I love it. Well, remind me next year to have you on more early, not just a few days before the conference. You or someone can come on a few months in advance to make sure people make their plans. But if you're listening and you can't make this year, plan on October of next year. I'm assuming it's October.
That's right. Yeah, October next year.
October
right around the same time.
Yeah, mid-late October next year. Clear your schedule, save the date, kind of thing. But if you can make it this year in Las Vegas, October 18th through the 21st, you can buy tickets at the door. But don't do that. Go register, get a hotel room. There's a lot of hotels nearby, and join us. And we're going to have a great time. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, but just check out CSIconference.org, and you'll see what we're talking about. Very
good. Well, Barry, I know your time is precious and you're getting ready to pack up to go to the conference yourself here in a few days. So thank you so much for being on the Phil Ferguson Show. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to keep today's wrap-up a little short because I have a lot to do getting ready to go on a 3-week trip. It's going to start with the conference in Las Vegas, CSI Con, put on by the Center for Inquiry. And then a couple weeks later in San Francisco with the Freedom from Religion Foundation Conference. Looking forward to that. Maybe see a few sites in between and trying to figure out how to get almost all of my work done from the road. So it's not a vacation. It's just a working trip. So I'll get to see a few sites while I'm out west. On iTunes, I have 2 new reviews. The first one is Paramore Louver 1. 5-star review. Thank you very much. Informative and interesting topics. Very unique subjects. Looking forward to more. Thank you for the kind review. And the next one is Christian 1991. I'm not sure if that's Christian said a funny way, but 5-star review. Love the skepticism and money advice. Saved the 2 Bitcoin episodes in my library. And if you don't recall, last year, a couple of days before Christmas, I think it was December 21st, I had been working on information for a Bitcoin show, and I was requested. I was very, very delighted to be invited by Seth Andrews to be on his podcast, The Thinking Atheist, to talk about Bitcoin. And I had to very quickly wrap up and finish all my research and review, and did a show for him, which became part 1. And then that same day, I also released part 2. So that's back on, I think it's December 21st of 2017. And the 2 segments came out, I think it was 3 or 4 days after Bitcoin had touched or came really close to $20,000 a coin. And it was a mad frenzy. And I very, very clearly and forcefully, and I hopefully with good reason and rationale, suggested that not only do you not buy Bitcoin, but if that you own some Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, that you get the fuck out and get out now. Well, when you put yourself out on a limb like that, there's always a danger of being wildly wrong. However, instead of being $20,000 or more per coin, Bitcoin is now in the 6,000s, I think. I don't track it that closely because I'm not really interested. I stick to traditional investments. I'm not very excited by new things unless you can prove that they're better than the things I already know and understand. So when someone comes along with a new investment strategy, a new way to make money that's pays better and has lower risk, I get very nervous. So Bitcoin is in that category, and I don't like it. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. Will it be worth more than $6,500, whatever it is today in the future? I have no idea. I'm not going to own any. You take that for whatever it's worth. The other thing I just popped into my head, about a year ago, I broke one of my basic rules and I talked about a specific stock because I normally don't track specific stocks. I don't care about specific stocks. My strategy is using index funds and owning kind of everything and riding the market, knowing that while I won't beat everybody, I'll beat most people. And I have time, or hopefully you have time, and you don't want to be the rabbit in the tortoise and the hare fable and go real fast and end up losing at the end. I think of myself as the turtle, slow and steady. Add more money, invest, adjust, skim the cream off the top when you've done really well, add to what's not done really well, rebalance, add more money. It's not fancy. It's not exciting necessarily. I think it's exciting because you could end up with a whole lot of money at some point. But anyway, I talked about Tesla, and I got a lot of email at the time because around the time of the show, almost a year ago, Tesla was $350 a share. I was not predicting that Tesla would fall. I was more concerned that it would underperform the market and that maybe there was some hype, maybe a lot of hype, built into its stock price. The company very rarely makes any money. It often loses a lot of money. And no matter how fancy schmancy the technology is, no matter how fucking cool the cars are, and they are, if you don't make money, one day you go out of business. And for a company to be valued more than Ford Motor Company, which it was at the time, which was making money. I don't even know if it's making money today, but they have a history of making money. They own assets. They don't have a ton of debt, I don't think. But it gave me concerns that Tesla might be a problem. I had no idea that Elon Musk would do some of the incredibly inane, stupid shit that he's done since then. He went on a podcast and smoked pot. I don't have a problem with you smoking pot. Why would you do that? You can spook some of your investors. But the really, really stupid, incredibly stupid thing that Elon Musk has done is he suggested that he had a buyout offer and funding was all set to sell Tesla for $420 a share when it was trading between $320 and $350, and he didn't. First of all, even if he did, that still could have been illegal because it wasn't an official announcement. It was put out on his Twitter page, kind of off the top of his head, like the orange guy in D.C. Very, very unprofessional. And the SEC came down on him like a ton of bricks, like they should have. And it looks like they've agreed that he has to pay $20 million penalty. Tesla board of directors has to pay $20 million penalty for not keeping him in line. And Elon Musk has to leave the board of directors. He can still be the CEO, but he can't be on the board of directors. Despite this settlement or proposed settlement, because it's not been finalized, Elon Musk has lipped off again and has attacked the SEC, which could have thrown him in jail, but instead fined him $20 million. And for a guy like Elon Musk, I think he has $20 million. He can just pay the fine, not admit any wrongdoing, and get the fuck on with his life and learn from his mistake. You can't use Twitter or any other platform to hype your stock and try to affect its price. That's illegal. So he's at it again. And because of these shenanigans and some concerns genuinely about Tesla, the price has gone from around $350 to around $250. And I'll get emails and things on Facebook, people going, how did you know? I didn't know. I didn't actually predict, I don't think. I didn't go back and listen that it was going to go down. I just was concerned that it was hype. It was a lot of hype. A lot of people that are in high tech, that have good income, want to own Tesla stock. They want to promote Tesla, and I'm with them. I want to promote Tesla too. I want it to win. What they don't know is it hasn't made a lot of money, almost never made money. It might make money in this quarter or the next quarter, but it owes a lot of debt. It's not just all people buying stocks. They have a lot of bonds that are coming due, and they have to either pay them off or reissue new bonds. And as their debt grows, as the risk grows, the interest rate they may have to pay will be higher and higher. So now the next thing that you have to do, if you can't get reasonable bonds issued, you put out a new offering of stock. So the company's value doesn't change. You just have more owners, and that can devalue the stock also. So that's a concern. But the thing that really concerned me a year ago, while Tesla is cutting edge and unique and different, a lot of car manufacturers are aggressively researching and developing battery technologies, electric-powered cars, and I don't know when it's going to be, but in 3, 5, maybe it takes 10 years, Tesla will be one of several companies, and they will be competing in the market space with cars from Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, General Motors. They will be putting out cars similar to Tesla, maybe at lower prices. Maybe they'll have them as loss leaders for a while or break even or maybe not make that much profit. And now Tesla would have competition for a product that they produce. So it can be hard. Anyway, this was going to be my quick ending for today. Got off on that, Bitcoin and Tesla. Thank you for listening. I'm going to wrap up the show. And if you go to CSICon or the FFRF conference, please find me, say hello. I would be delighted to talk to you for a few minutes. Until then, ciao.